If you look in the Bible, you'll see that God made man with intention. That God made man with purpose. He's not happenstance. Man's not just here because he's a side thought. He's intentional, and he was made with a purpose and an intention from God. He said, let us make man for our. You can find it in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. God said, let us make man in our image. And the very next verse says, so in the likeness and image of God, he made man both male and female. So you can find that man was made for God's image. Now that has nothing to do with how we look. If you look around the room, we all look drastically different. Yeah? It's talking about who God is. In fact, if you look in Scripture, God doesn't have a body. He had to give Jesus one. God's spirit. God's a spirit. So he's not arms and legs and a torso and a head. He's a spirit. So he gave us a body to house what's on the inside and to manifest. This body is to act out the inside. You know them by their fruits. Yeah? So your body's not a curse. It's a tool to manifest what's on the inside. Are you with me? The fact that we all look different means that image has nothing to do with appearance. Isn't that cool? So we ought to stop trying to look like each other and start looking like him. Come on, we put a lot of time looking at what we think is the most acceptable appearance and then trying to look like that. I mean, some people are on their fourth nose, third set of lips. Man, if we put that much effort and energy in becoming more like him, we'd transform the world probably. It's cool. Usually I pull somebody out of the audience that's a different ethnic background to me, race, color, somebody that looks totally drastically different to me, and I'll get them up here and I'll say, hey, are you ever gonna mix us up in a room? Are you gonna get to know us and say, call us each other and say, oh, I get you two mixed up all the time. And everybody gets a chuckle out of it because I picked somebody that you could never mistake for me. And the truth would be that that person looks nothing like me. You're not gonna mix us up, but we can both look like him. And that's what makes us one. And in the 28 years I've been saved, this is what I found out. There's a whole lot of messages out there. There's a whole lot of reasons people say they're Christian. There's some people that just don't want to go to hell. They want to make sure they go to heaven, so they pray a prayer called the sinner's prayer so they can get their name in a book called life, which is in Scripture. There's people that are going through a hard time and they're just looking for God to fix that. There's people going through a rough time in their marriage. They're hoping God saves their marriage. There's somebody that just got laid off. They come to God. Sometimes we come to God for a lot of different reasons. But what's so important is at some point, come to God, right? But at some point, you got to align to why he sent his son and why he invited you to come. I've learned that so many people come for blessing and for what they can get from God. They come for provision. They come for protection. They come just hoping life goes better. Yeah? See, the room's strangely quiet right now. I can feel about half of the people saying, well, ain't that why you come to God? You come to God for new life, to get restored back to that which he intended, because sin cost us that truth. And we got pulled away from that truth. And every man after Adam's sin was born into Adam, not into God. So none of us were born knowing him. None of us were born outside of a self-centered motive. Every one of us had an identity crisis, and not one of us had a clue who we were, and we thought we were finding out along the way through people. At a very young age, you needed valued, appreciated, noticed, supported, protected. Everyone in this room, from the youngest to the oldest, at a very young age, you had huge insecurities. You were very self-conscious and very aware of your needs. And a lot of times, people at a very young age believe they're no more and turn out to be no more than how they responded to how life unfolded. That's why people talk about their story so much. That's why people live in the past so much. That's why people are 40 still talking about what it was like when they were growing up. Because they were those years that seemed to form them and mold them and shape them into whatever it is they're walking out to be. But see, Jesus wants to give you new life. Jesus wants you to put off the old and put on the new. He wants old things to pass away and new things to come. He wants you to put your hand to the plow and never even look back. Paul said, I'm going to apprehend knowing him. I haven't arrived yet. I'm getting to know him, but I don't know him like I could. But there's one thing I do to make sure I'm going to know him. Just one thing, not one of two, one thing. I forget what lies behind. See, we have to understand that even though you have a memory, a history, there's people in your past that are important that we seem to tend to honor. You're not doing those people injustice when you look away from your past. You can never find yourself through how life has been. You can only find your life through him and yourself through him. How can that possibly be true? Because in that former life, you had a different motive than you have in Christianity. I don't know if you understand this, but to be a Christian, you have to learn what it means to deny yourself. You can't just get saved to go to heaven. You deny yourself. Why do you deny yourself? Because you were never made for you. You were made for his image.